right. We are here. The action is happening, Taco, and we're right back into the mix of things.
Third time is the charm, but for which duo exactly? That's the ultimate question that remains, but keep in mind, this is only 3 out of 5 of our upper bracket day 1 matches that we have taken place here in this weekend of semis action, and Muzz already found himself with a turnaround though onto Raze. Raze nearly thought he had him, but excellent positioning there from Muzz, kind of juking around some of that natural coverage provided here at Fencing Fields. Ranger pistol going absolutely ballistic there as well. Definitely a pivotal moment here. And Muzz, he's looking to keep things going as well. Just trying to collect what little bits he can, because he definitely would like some shield. Most players do though.
Yeah, we've seen this from Muzz and Paper before, right? Land quick, find an elimination, but they're the type of duo that will stick around. They don't tend to rotate out of Fencing Field early. They didn't in game 1. They definitely did not in game number 2 either. So for Muzz to secure the Slurp truck by himself and now lose Paper, it does seem like things are going to have to play out a little bit differently. Consistency is still at the top of mind for this duo right now. So just like that, all of a sudden we have a different scenario of playing out.
It's tough, but it's not impossible, and anybody could get the job done. Muzz certainly a player that can live up to that standard. Paper, though, probably relatively unhappy with the fact it just seems as though he was just trying to collect a little bit more loot, maybe get some better early game weaponry to try and close out engagements faster, but again, just so many teams kind of lurking around Fencing Fields. Now it's going to be Acorn and Cold one more time. Bones Jones just headed straight to the graveyard at this point. Acorn might find the same fate, though, as Cold already lost in the process. Acorn's going to be forced to just fall back here. Could look, though, for the exchange. Trying to pull off the revive now onto Cold, and it doesn't seem as though anybody's going to be able to pressure him just yet, so should be a success, but look at Muzz toppling overhead now. This could be disastrous for Acorn and Cold.
What a big upgrade from Muzz there. He gets the card from Paper, then of course the materials, the ammunition, and boogies on out of there. That could have been terribly bad for Acorn and Cold if they would have lost a second chance at finding points here in this game. It just shows you the dangers of being highly contested like this at a drop spot, right? No one is safe, even if you're at the skill caliber likes of Acorn and Cold. So what a story, what a struggle for the Fencing Fields. Here at the Lavish Lair, much different story as Clix and Epic Whale again have all but clear skies because they're gonna have to rotate out to find a battle. Here's a team that's not waiting at all. Sid and Millie are in a head-to-head.
And this has been a repeat battle. 7 Mil and Dolzier. They want to take out Sid first and foremost. Duo having just split enough, but 7 Mil finds himself on the receiving end of Suss's shotgun. Fortunately, though, Dolzier will be able to close out that elimination onto Sid, and that's going to force Suss to look for a fallback routine, but Dolzier got a little bit ambitious there, and now Suss trying to see if he can actually turn this in his favor. And if Dolzier isn't careful, he might have these small shield potions to work with, but Suss's aim has definitely been pretty on point. But without shield to work through, winning this sort of 1 versus 2 engagement is just not really in the cards.
Yeah, that would have been a hard ask for anyone to go ahead and win that fight. There were 25 HP. But in the end, a valiant effort nonetheless. Peterbot and Boyo here. We have to see some life from them in the early game. And it seems like Baka and Pars are trying to squeeze what's left out of Peterbot and Boyo. This is by no means the type of duo that you want to be facing this early in the game. We've already seen Peterbot and Boyo obviously not quite performing up to their own expectations. However, are they warmed up now, or was the break a little too long between the games, as we haven't really seen them make it to an end game?
they want to make it to that end game, they are going to have to figure something out in terms of dealing with Baka and Pars. What was interesting, though, is across the way over at Restored Reels, it almost seemed as though a player was kind of poised on that beachfront. Could potentially have a line of sight into this engagement that's taking place between these two teams. And if so, it could be very problematic for both Baka Pars and Peterbot Pollo. Pars, though, definitely trying to make sure he doesn't stray too far from his teammate Baka. And what I like about this MDF is that we have been seeing Peterbot and Pollo play extraordinarily split. I mean, it's basically their bread and butter, and that might just be Peterbot's demise, because now Pars, Baka, just trying to bear down on his box, but Peterbot, he's not going to go down without a fight.
I was going to say, we're looking at two completely different types of duo engagements. Pollo and Peterbot doing what no one would recommend. Split up, play different angles against top tiers, sure. See how long that lasts you. But then you have Baka and Pars that wouldn't even for a moment decide to isolate away from their duo, playing hip-to-hip in exceptional fashion. What we would consider a more standard and more, tactical approach. But that is the difference in the capabilities of Pollo and Peterbot as individual players. And Baka and Pars have been playing together with one another for a long time, right? Since before the regions merged. So this is an incredible duo. And with the Underworld dashes in place, I mean, anything can happen. At any moment, a team can decide to zip right past your edit and into your box. So the risk has never been higher here.
Not to mention the fact that, again, that team
Zeus
over at Restored Reels, it might be Bacon and TK looking to introduce themselves to this engagement. Again, when you are fighting these stretched out battles, you're never truly alone, especially not inside of a set lobby. Pollo, Peterbot, they're going to be the first to bail, recognizing the fact that they can't hold on to their position while dealing with simultaneous pressure from a team that they can't even get near. But Pollo, he's just so split again from Peterbot. He was trying to kind of hold the line there, give Peterbot an opportunity to regen his shield, and he did manage to succeed in that front.
Look at the aggression,
they want it so bad.
It's like saying, hey, yeah, no, we're gonna back off, but we're not gonna really back off. If you make one mistake, we're pushing you right away. And they're already back on the heels of this team here, instead of getting closer and closer to the edge where danger could also be lurking. So that was just high tier antics, if you will, from both sides. But Re and Ritual back in the mix here. This is a team that hasn't had a problem with Surge at all. And you can see why. They're actually finishing their eliminations in fair time and fashion. This should be an upgrade opportunity here for Ritual, whose loadout wasn't even the best before this engagement happened here. There it is, plenty to pick from.
Definitely a little bit unfortunate there for Cirque and Rafiki. Just migrating a little bit south towards Reckless Railways from their drop at Rescue Station. And with that in mind, though, Ritual and Reet, they might definitely look to try and set up for a possible weapon bunker fight. If they want to go for those excess materials, they can. Keep in mind, though, that with those two eliminations, their Surge is bound to be looking rather healthy now in comparison to some of our other lobby competitors. But kind of touching back on what we just witnessed from Peterbot, Pollo, Baka, and Pars, both of those duos just expended so many of their materials. I think part of the reason why they split off in the first place, too, is because not only that Thunderbolt of Zeus pressure, but also just recognizing the fact that, like, hey, we don't have the mats to keep fighting each other even if we wanted to.
Yeah, I think if the Thunderbolts weren't coming in, they would have rode that game out to the lobby. Like, I think they were there and committed at that point for sure. Rise and Iamzo on the move right now. We've seen very, very clever play out of this duo. This is another team that is no strangers to being split up as they rotate for tags. Bolts and Bryce, much different conversation happening here. It's Shadow who's in a bit of a hold-up. Ooh, bit of a bad edit there. It's gonna leave him exposed for a moment. That's what happens. Your team exposes you. Shots coming from the side, and this is why communication is key.
And the concern for Bolts here isn't even match necessarily. It's more so shields. He can't really afford to continue eating shots from Zooks like he just was. Down to his final flopper. This is really all just going to hinge on how quickly Shadow and Zooks or Bryce and Bolts try and turn this in their favor. Zooks now, 2 exposed. Another wall edit that's just not going to be closed off in time, and Bolts trying to take advantage of this to an extent, but again, no shields. Bryce just gonna opt to play the medkit for right now, while Bolts continues to try and bear down onto Shadow and Zooks. After a certain point, too, you know that neither of these teams wants to forfeit the rights to this weapon bunker either.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing a very fair and balanced engagement between 2 duos that are just, you know, well matched, right? Like, both sides are making similar, if not the same mistakes with the late edits, the accidental exposing of one another. So it makes sense that this fight isn't steamrolled or quickly closing out, right? So there it is. Both teams are going to pretty much meet their match and decide, hey, let's play it for the zone. That's obviously what's more important. Edgy and Tavern, questionable. Oh. Yeah, I was going to say, what's happening here? They are going to have to just play for trade pickups right now. This is about as bad as it can get, actually. If Tavern didn't press that button in time, just barely. Yeah.
This is
sketchy.
This is a situation, that is for sure. If Edgy and Tavern manage to finagle their way out of this one, that would just be insane. This is such a far rotate that they have to make. And they're scavenging for any form, bandages, medkits. Edgy already recognizing the fact.
You gotta save me.
It's just not gonna happen.
Oh my gosh, he had to eat a heal just in time. Okay, so he's down to bandages. He does have bandages. You saw him use that bandage right before that happened because, yeah, otherwise it wouldn't have been all right.
But if you're playing for the wins, Monster, this to me reads more like Tavern and Edgy playing for placement as opposed to an outright victory royale. They want to just ensure that they do well enough that they can at least secure placement points to maintain that 6th through 25th threshold on the leaderboards. I can respect that. I understand it. It is going to be insane if they manage to bring this one back to life because their game is just looking awfully raps when you break it down in comparison to where some of our other lobby competitors are at. But at the same time, I can respect, you know, the mental fortitude to still keep trying to prevail in such a dire-looking situation.
Yeah, I mean, I love the setup when you said, you know, if they're playing for the win, my immediate thought was no. Like, no, that's not it. It's not looking good at all. Edgy is going to make it off the zone, though, so all hope is not lost just yet. The zone is close on their heels, though, so they can't stop. And, you know, third party of this team, even if they wanted to, they're using the river to get to safety as D-Roller and Crackley do have a little bit of the leisure to stick around and potentially fight this fight against Muzz. But it's got to be careful. There it is. The punishment comes in. The edit, though. How was that D-Roller's wall and Muzz was standing in that box? That was questionable all in all. And Muzz turns that entire situation around. Hades chain in hand as well. So all types of action unfolding here.
Wow. Muzz has just been popping off today. Yes. That is what I'm registering currently, okay? Because in the first place, the fact that Paper is even with him currently, Muzz able to reboot Paper in this map, then close out that box fight engagement, get some nice little siphon materials out of it as well, a little bit of ammunition, and that might have just been the break they needed to force their way into the zone, but they're not the only ones. Edgy Tavern still straggling through this one. And Peterbot.
Gosh.
It looked like that may have been a Huntress DMR with the 4 times potentially, given the damage that he received. Still gotta be wary though, knowing that there are players with that much high ground leverage over him.
Yeah, you saw that glint on the other side of the scope, so you know that was trouble all around. Tavern and Edgy, still no break. They just need a little bit of health. Scratch that. They need a lot of health and a lot of mats. They need a lot of everything right now. Smuds and Papers underneath here. These floors are weak. They do have a lot of this territory covered. But yeah, no, everyone's more focused on making the rotate here. If I'm done, might jump in that box, and I likely recycle the rotate here shortly. We'll see what the decision ends up being. Peterbot and Pollo hasn't moved either, so they're looking to see if they can pick up their eliminations.
That might just be a prime situation, though, for Peterbot and Pollo, because they were by far the most healthy and best itemized team out of the 3 present at that train station. Here far north, though, over by Classic Ports, just to the east of it, Reet and Ritual found themselves tied up currently with Paco and Mixon. Reet just trying to attack the floor underneath Paco and Mixon, but he will fall back to his duo. Doesn't want to stay too far split apart. Could potentially be looking for the chop, though, but no, instead it's going to be Reet and Ritual. They just want to maintain staying ahead of this rotation. They know that eventually Paco and Mixon are going to have to come their way instead.
Yeah, definitely can appreciate a good disengage. This looks like one of those ones where, hey, you just wait for the zone with the storm, start to assist you here. That's that unofficial third person in this engagement right here, and there you can see the damage starting to add up, regardless of whether or not Reet is able to find the tags there. So Bucket Mixer are going to start to rotate in and should start to carry on. Meanwhile, Cold finds elimination onto Clicks there in the feed as well. So there is a lot going on here in the Fortnite world. As we're kind of zoomed in on this battle, let's look at that Acorn and Cold engagement right here. 3 eliminations for Cold now. This is the complete opposite side of the world. We couldn't have jumped any further. As you can see, the Backtalk and Feline have continued to be the pest in the thorn in the side here of Acorn and Cold, but they shut this team down, and there's another one there already looking to fend off the shots. It is, of course, Epic Whale, who was trying to fend for his teammate, and I'm assuming he's gotten Clicks' card, right? I think he might have gotten everything he needs to at least play for the potential save here.
But if he wants to go for that, he needs to get it sooner rather than later. Fish straight onto the launch pad, and that's going to take him far enough from this current fight. But checking back in with Muzz, Paper down one more time. Muzz just trying to keep these moving forward, and Tavern will be on the other side of Muzz's barrel there. Nice elimination, but again, Peterbot, Pollo, their positioning just all the better. Poor Muzz forced to sit this one out and wait for the next lobby. As Epic, same mentality. He's just playing for himself at this point. He's going for the placement strategy. Bit shambles as far as the loot is concerned, but at least one small shield potion to buy him a little bit more time. Bandage online as well, so he'll at least have that 75 white HP to work with. But his last little bit of Flowberry Fizz here, MDF, and he's just hoping, praying that Cam and Aminish don't decide to check upstairs, and they're not the only ones. Yuumi, Vert now, jumping straight into the fray. Epic tried to go from behind, but he didn't finalize the shots. Yuumi and Vert just so quick with those wall edits, and Epic forced to just lay waste to the storm.
Yeah, I liked the decision to dip back into the storm because he had the 9 bandages. I wasn't a huge fan trying to key in on the team after the wall and the splash came down, but it is what it is. These types of things are going to happen. Mixon and Paco, though, continue to stick to their guns, stick to the north side here, and it puts them at a high ground position right now, and they look to back way on off here for a second, and there's that no drop rate hit scan mythic waterbend in full effect here. This is, I would say, where it shines best, right? If you don't have a DMR or something, just play long range, play you're trying to rotate.
And that's all that Mixon's doing, just constantly berating. We saw Reed and Ritual. It seems as though Mixon and Paco have not forgotten about the fact that Reed and Ritual are holding them for a little bit, and now they're just making sure to return the favor. Yeah, this is a perfect rotation into the next zone. If nobody spots them out, keep in mind there is a team already relatively center of this next zone, but 7 mil Dozier.
This is
just going straight down.
crazy. This is crazy. He's gonna land right onto Dozier, and they actually end up boxing him out and then cutting off the teammate there. That could have been all bad for Dozier, but his teammate responded fast enough and backed him up there. What a gutsy play from Mixon and Paco, but you have to respect it. I mean, they were just going toe-to-toe with Rhea and Ritual moments ago. They were doing just fine, so now that they're the first to the punch here to get the high ground spot, I mean, they couldn't be in a better position to have decisions to make later in the game, actually have options.
But one thing they definitely need, though, is some materials. Paco and Mixon only boasting about 22 builds apiece. Definitely not ideal considering how nice their actual positioning is, but they might be able to make it work in their favor, especially depending on how the zone chooses to pull, but instead a little bit further south from where they were situated. So they'll definitely have their work cut out for them, working their way down that mountain face. Blake and Macwood as well. Another team just barely managing to cling above that surge damage threshold. The knock onto Chubbs, now transitioning into a full elimination. But Blake and Macwood, they're not content. They definitely want to see if they can isolate any of these other teams, spot out maybe a solo that's trying to play more towards the backside of zones, going in with the later rotates.
Look at this, Kanata and Cooper once again setting themselves up for what could be a high ground spot, but they don't really have the mats to do much with it. But the damage might just be done to the rest of the lobby that has to work their way up this funnel, this low ground, this steep mountain. If they just continue to hold these angles and pressure down on players, I mean, it's going to be rough for everyone. It's going to cost a lot of these teams all of their material. Look at this angle that Blake and Mac would have on Sabak and Pars. I mean, if the zone just goes a different way, that's it, right? It could be wraps, and they're going to make a move to inch closer towards this team. I wonder if they think they sense some vulnerability down here. Little do they know, Sabak and Pars are likely fully equipped.
Not only that, but it is a risky call right now from Blake and Macwood because they are banking everything on that side of the mountain face, hoping that the zones just continue to pull in their favor. Paco and Mixon, though, yeah, no mats is right, and there is a couple of teams sort of hovering towards that secondary height. Paco,
He almost missed the jump.
I was waiting for it, but for a second there, that would have been a little questionable, but he did manage to connect. Reunited one more time with Mixon. And that waterbending mythic, I think, might be their best friend currently. The ultimate way to try and shut down some of these teams that are looking to either chop them out or pressure height from the mid-ground layers in general.
Cold and Acorn, completely different story in play right here. All the way to low ground, they shoot out Paco and Mixon, but we do know they have the fizz effect, so they will be able to land safely. And then right into repositioning themselves here. And this might be a best case scenario for them. They need this fight right here as they don't have mats, so you couldn't ask for a better spot to be in than over top of a player pressuring down low. But no, Paco bails on Mixon, and it just seems like the decision-making was a little bit off there. They should have stood together. You see what happens when the pressure starts to turn around here. So for Cold and Acorn, the sky opens up, things start to brighten up for them, and this should be their game now to run away with here.
They've got ample materials. They've also got Paco kind of bodyguarding his way through the low ground. Does have a med kit. Just get him a few more placement points, but Kanata and Cooper, another relatively strong duo still left standing, but what they don't have currently, MDF, is build, at least not on Kanata's side. So they're gonna try and tarp through, staying more towards frontside low. But again, Baka, Pars, could play spoiler here to Kanata and Cooper. All it takes is one good shot, one wrong turn, and that could spell the end here when you don't have many builds to work with. In comparison to Acorn and Cold, just warlords of the high ground currently.
Look at this, Kanata getting all the chance in the world to bounce back some material count there. Very nice find there. Pars and Baka punished from Bolts up top, and it's just brutal on all sides as Bolts is the one who comes out on top and gets the full elimination. Pars is weak as well, and Bolts with the 2v1. on his old friends of Baka and Pars there. Well played for him. This is going to secure him a top 5 now. He is sliding his way in, and then punishment onto Cooper as well, where we thought Cooper could not have had this in the books on lock. No, Bolts throws his decision in the mix there too, and just like that, a 2v1 here should set up Acorn and Cole for the win now.
Acorn and Cole, they're just waiting it out. There's really no rush from where they're standing. Cole's gonna go ahead and drop down anyway. Put some pressure onto Bolts' walls. Bolts, though, still scurrying around, seeing if he can maybe find a straight shot. He does have that Mythic Gatekeeper to work with. Acorn and Cole actually switching things around, but Bolts, down to his last little bit of HP, does manage to connect a single shot onto Cole, but it's just not enough when you're dealing with both Cole and Acorn.
You know what? You got to take your hats off for Bolts fighting all the way through to the end, not willing to just roll over and let the job be finished there. No, he wants to go ahead and fight back for his. Acorn and Cole are going straight to finals now as they have secured game number 3. And take a look at the highlights, the high ground. It was masterfully done right here. Full health, full material counts, just everything you can ask for. In the end, not ideal to let another player take the high ground from you, but a 10 elimination victory royale is still a huge W, Taco.
And look, I don't want to take the limelight away from Acorn and Cole by any means, but can we talk about the fact that Kanata and Cooper, this is like their 3rd lobby now of finding themselves in that top 5. They are just so close, on the cusp of finding these victory royales for the grand finals, but maybe Zeke, Vivid, and Kelly have some more information on that.